We have a few people missing, including the city attorney. In case the mic didn't pick up, we are calling to order the Planning Commission for today, August 7th, 2025. This is my first time chairing, so I appreciate everybody's patience and guidance, and most importantly, trust. So, Pledge of Allegiance. I will lead the Pledge of Allegiance since
There we go.
it's my first time. Right hand over the heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. We hope. We strive. Okay, roll call. As mentioned, we are missing a few people. We have Commissioner Robert Leah. We have Commissioner Dennis Washburn. Vice Chair serving as Chair, Matthew Hazana. And we have Michael Harrison. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right.
And this is actually the second meeting you've chaired.
Sure, technically, 2 in a row. First one wasn't televised, so a little bit more pressure, but yes.
I move approval of the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Any objections? No? I guess approval
Who's this?
Take a vote.
passed. Oh, take a vote. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any nays? No? Okay. Agenda is approved. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice Chair, just for the record, I
Please.
just want to point out that Chair Fastberg is absent with an excused absence. And want that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. And we hope she gets well soon. Announcements and introductions. I will start down here to my left.
Nothing.
Nope.
Nothing.
Nope. Nothing from me.
No, nothing.
All right, moving along. Public comments. I don't have any speaker cards for what's agendized, but I think this is the time where if there's anything off the agenda, we give the public the opportunity to talk. So we have 2 members here now. If you want to.
This is the planning commission now. That's a public meeting. Absolutely. Members of the public, do you have something to say to the planning commission about something that they would?
All right.
All right, I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay. All ayes in favor of approval?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No. Unanimous approval. All right, so first we get into the consideration of an amendment to CMC Chapter 17.34, the Green Development Standards. This is what's on our slate tonight primarily. So we have an oral report. I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. I'm going to keep this very, very brief. This has been 2 meetings prior that we've discussed the ordinance. I'll do a little brief summary for the members of the community that may be watching rebroadcasts of this. So basically, in the year 2003, I think implemented first part of 2004. Commissioner Harrison, then Council Member Harrison, had authored a Chapter 1734 of our Development Code, which are green development standards that implemented the LEED rating system for all new non-residential development above 500 square feet. And that LEED is just basically a sustainability rating system that encourages higher performance buildings that are more sustainable and produce less greenhouse gases and such. Along in 2008, the state adopted the Green Building Code, known as Cal Green, which implemented a duplicative set of standards, and they've gotten more stringent over the years. So with the amendment since 2008, we now have what are a redundant set of standards, both doing the same thing, which is to construct high-performance, sustainable buildings. So we'd been through 2 discussions before, as I had mentioned, and the direction at the December 2024 meeting was to bring back an ordinance that essentially repeals Chapter 17.34 in its entirety in favor of reliance on the state's green building code that does essentially the same thing. So that's what's before you right now. I've attached a resolution for the action and a draft ordinance for your review, and that actually ends my oral report. I'm available for questions. Thank you.
I just had to point out, because I can't help myself, that in front of me on the dais here are two former mayors. So half of the commission and present today are former mayors and council members who were and are huge champions of our green building code. And we were way ahead of this, of other cities and the state. And so I think we've reached a significant milestone where we can look at what we did and think that it made a difference to a greater degree of the whole state because we led the way. So I just want to, I guess, in a real backhanded way, say I salute you guys for all the efforts you put in to get that ordinance adopted in the first place.
Thank you.
It was nice to start the ball rolling, was it not?
Yeah, well,
And
at that time, we didn't, there was no state green building standard. and-
Right.
Is your microphone on, sir?
Oh, I said at that time, there was no state green building standard, so this was a way to implement it here.
And there was an ongoing debate about who the first city was to actually adopt a LEED standard. I still think it's us. I think there's some out there that think might it be Santa Monica, so we're arm wrestling over that honor, but
So
I think it was Calabasas.
No, I think we were the first. Santa Monica did have the first green building ordinance, but it wasn't, I remember when I was on the council, our staff said it would cost $50,000 to duplicate something like that. And it was, it didn't incorporate by reference the LEED standard, which made it easier for builders to, because that was a nationwide standard. So anyway, that's why we went that way.
I think it's going to be a short meeting, and I want to do a little history here, just if you don't mind indulging. Thank you, Tom, for the acknowledgement of the council and the efforts of the whole city. Because the cityhood literally was based upon trying to save, at the very least, some oak trees and the view sheds on the various, scenic corridors that we have. And there was enough, basis for that kind of discussion that we didn't have to invent it all. There was a general movement in that regard. So there was almost no resistance in our city to looking at everything we could do to make sure that not only do we deal with carbon and greenhouse gases, but the whole picture of energy and atmospheric issues and land issues and the biota and literally the animals as well as the oak trees and the plants. And it set a pace that kind of grew out of the 101 corridor cities that preceded us, but nobody put a cap on it like we did. And now everybody's trying to figure out how we, can do the next important thing. And now it's clearly our challenge to deal with firescaping and, xeriscaping and all the other things that they're costly in time and money to address. So it's what we've done as a city to, I guess, confront it and also challenge ourselves to be creative about it. I mean, it's easy to dismiss that this city hall is LEED's gold, and we actually attempted to get platinum,
Yeah.
and we discovered that it was a moving target. There were 52 categories in which you needed to accomplish what would be, greenness at the time. And by the time we were actually into our gold qualification and wanted to head for the platinum, they changed the actual scoring from 52 different categories to 100 categories at the last minute. And the way I looked at it, it was actually a full employment opportunity for the PEs of the state of California, and particularly here. you know, the physical engineers. So I think the value of our staff in paying attention and figuring out a way to make it all happen, and the leadership of the city, you know, both elected and appointed and hired, you know, we were all of the same nature. It actually expresses itself in our old city hall because there we rented, but we insisted upon HEPA air filters. And, you know, when we furnished the place, the carpeting, you know, the wall coverings, everything used non-toxic or non-off-gassing glues and things like that.
I remember that now.
And if you look at the woodwork in this place, this is all from sustainable forestry practices. So green building has a lot of depth to it. So tonight, even though we're probably going to just move on and pass this along to the council, it's important to understand why and, you know, who started all that. And it was the people of Calabasas.
Right.
And to your point, well, not just us two, you know.
No, it was,
It
right.
was everybody who had a hand in making this city work at the beginning contributed to making the consciousness of green building or sustainable practices, or I like to call it wealth, water, energy, atmosphere, land, technology, and habitat. All those things spell wealth. Natural wealth and man-made wealth, you know, they're the arena in which we are dealing with right now. So this being a duplicative thing, if we can take a little credit, at least for stimulating the state of California to catch up with us, that's a good thing. And now it's going to be, I think, valuable to see how the state moves next. And it has to, because look at the challenges that are coming out of Washington, D.C. now. So it's going to be very interesting. That's my polemic for the night. And it's nice to be with the folks who actually prepared this report tonight, because they're saying this is a process issue, if I'm not mistaken, because we have to have two sets of hearings, one that says that you know, the conditions that we're going to set and the findings are going to be Calabasas-based, but the fact is that we also have to prove as a city that our findings and our conditions on anything that gets built have to meet the state, and they want a separate hearing process in order to deal with that. It's a lot of wasted money. We've been doing it for 14 years or more, and they're just trying to get started. Am I wrong or am I right?
No, you're right.
Okay.
So
That answers my questions, and also I answered my own.
I've spoken to Glenn, and this doesn't preclude, even though, you know, we may recommend, you know, that this be repealed, it doesn't preclude us from advocating for future, for further environmental issues. For example, I've been advocating for some kind of a ban on plastic lawns, artificial turf. And some cities have it, specifically no artificial turf around oak trees, because it's really not good for them. 'Cause they need air and water and so forth. But, I mean, I hope we can, well, maybe the Environmental Commission brings this up. I mean, I don't know where that would originate, but I think that's a significant issue. And then the other issue that Sierra Club wanted concerns the gas, and you pointed out that natural gas, we can't just ban it in appliances, but perhaps there's some cities are trying to do something to prevent or to require heat pumps, for example, instead of natural gas heating in the future. You know, anyway, so again, it doesn't mean that we have to stop.
And the complications for us include some of our neighboring cities. One of our neighbors, in fact, wants to ban the installation of natural gas utilities and go all electric. And that's in the report, I seem to remember, if not here elsewise. And that's an extreme decision to make. And I know we did research other cities' responses to this issue that we're facing as 101 corridor cities. But Have we heard anything from any of the other cities?
Well, as I put in the report, I had a good conversation with the building official for the city of Agora. And I can even broaden that too, because there's been a big push over the last now almost decade for cities to adopt climate action plans, right? And basically a climate action plan has an inventory of your greenhouse gas emissions as a city, and it's done through sophisticated modeling software. And then you take that information and have a series of community workshops and develop a set of objectives that are short-term, mid-term, and long-term in order to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions over time. And most cities have aligned those with the state goals of net zero carbon emissions by 2045, which is pretty aggressive by a state to even do. What came out of a lot of those climate action plans was, in part, what you just mentioned. All electric has been a big push for that, and of course the Restaurant Association versus the City of Berkeley case. Because of the ruling on that, every city that I know of that has implemented that REACH code has pulled back. They've either paused it or flat out repealed it because of the decision. I know our city attorney is not here tonight. I haven't heard if there's going to be a challenge to that. The next level would be the U.S. Supreme Court. So I don't know if that's in process or not, or if we're going to get any more information, or if they've seen it and did not want to take that on. So that may be hanging out there a little bit. But I also wanted to point out that the Green Building Code, it's adopted in a 3-year cycle along with the building code, and is very aggressively being upgraded every cycle. And the one example I have from the city of Agora, the building official was kind of shaking his head and said, "Yeah, well, we tried adopting a REACH code, and in 2 years it was obsolete because the base standard of green building caught up with the REACH code." So, the state's pushing forward really aggressively with its green building ordinance, I think in part to reach its goal by 2045. It might run up against some cost considerations for people because it is aggressive and it does add cost to a project, which, maybe for a large business that can absorb it a little bit easier, but, the homeowner just trying to build, be a tougher sell for them. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but, at least from my perspective, I'm pretty confident that in the future, these upgrades to the green building ordinance are going to keep us pushing forward in the right direction, just the way, we started in, and it was actually before 2003, right? You wrote an ordinance, but the city's been on the forefront of being sustainable for as long as I've been here, and probably since cityhood. So good job, Calabasas, and we can keep moving forward. But yeah, it's been hard to get a hold of cities. A few cities have adopted the tier 1, no one's adopted tier 2, by the way. Nobody. The cities that I've seen, which have been just a handful, small handful, and unfortunately I haven't been able to get a hold of a lot of the building officials up there to even see how those programs have been going. But I did actually hear back today from Santa Rosa, who said they've been implementing a tier 1 for years, minus the energy code. And interesting that everyone that has adopted a tier 1 standard that I've seen has adopted it without an increase in efficiency for the energy code. And I have a feeling that has to do with having to go to the California Energy Commission, producing a cost analysis and proving that your implementation of that isn't going to be an unreasonable cost to folks. They probably wanted to stay away from that part of the issue. But the building official from Santa Rosa, who I didn't talk to but exchanged emails with, said there was significant pushback at first adopting tier 1, but it's been years now and that's kind of died out a little bit. So it looks like people have kind of gotten used to that. But, I think with how aggressive the Green Building Code has been in years, the city, if you want to do something above and beyond, you have to ask yourself, how often you want to do it, can you stay ahead of an already aggressive schedule for the state green building code? That's really, to me, the crux of the issue to consider.
And where would the artificial turf issue come, to a different commission, or?
It's not really addressed in the building code. That could be addressed through Title 17 in a landscape ordinance. We already have an ordinance that doesn't allow artificial turf for the majority of your turf. It can only be used as an accent feature. And to be honest, we haven't seen that much artificial turf come through. There might be some homeowners that didn't have to get a permit that have installed it.
Oh, yeah, I see whole front lawns in
Yeah.
artificial turf, so I'm not sure what.
Well, we don't,
it's
if
not-
somebody's
It's just
doing,
not going to the city, I guess.
somebody's getting turf installed and they've contracted with Acme Turf or whatever, they're not coming to the city for permits for that, so.
Right.
So how do we deal with it? Well, anyway, we can talk about that later, but I think that's an issue. Because people aren't following that landscape ordinance.
There's a bunch of these things. It's not
Yeah.
just grass or
Right.
artificial turf.
Right.
It's plastic straws and
Yes.
it's packaging of your food goods and all the other stuff.
Yes.
And this city has been aggressive in dealing with that, but not manic about it. Some of our folks have been manic about communications issues like electromagnetic interference, and it's cost the city a lot of revenue, if you think about it, because people were fearful about the cell phone towers and other microwave components, threatening their children. Well, everybody worries about their children, and they should. But, you have to be careful about, the provability of some of the claims of the people who don't like any of that stuff. It's like, dealing with rodenticides. Look at the effort. Is that a green building issue? Well, kinda, because everybody's putting out rat poison traps next to their buildings to try to keep the rats and the mice and everything out of their buildings. So our staff has to figure out, hey, what's reasonable? What can we do? And that's kind of where we're at with this common sense recognition that the money it takes us to try to keep up with what we've already done 14 years ago makes no sense. So the fact that you've brought that to our attention, and it's going to be, I hope, depending on what my colleagues think, I'm going to put a motion on the floor, and we can debate it at that point. I'll move that we approve the resolution that we're being asked to approve tonight.
I'll second it. I think I made the motion the last time.
That doesn't- that
We've already
doesn't-
heard
that
this,
doesn't
right?
shut off conversation. It
Yeah.
just, it
Good,
puts,
because
Yeah, please.
I have a concern. I have, with the exception of heating, an all-electric home, I have solar. The state is pushing demand and then doing nothing with supply. So where are we going? We're driving off a cliff, and I think we need to caution the council that, if these projects come up, may not be able to run them.
In what way do you mean?
All electric, they're demanding, everything is electric, and as I say, I have it,
I
I've
mean,
had it.
Agora Hills is doing that.
I'm talking about what we do.
Okay.
Well, we're not, I think the point is, we can't yet ask for all electric. So that's not in this. The state doesn't require it, right?
Well, that's correct. Through the court action, we cannot require all electric because it violates federal law at this moment in time. I guess
That's the operative phrase, at this moment in time.
Right.
it may change, but I can say that the Green Building Code does require stubbing out of all electric with a building. So that becomes a cost consideration for someone building new, right? It doesn't affect what's already built. It's going to be only what's new or what's altered in an existing structure. But that cost consideration surely may drive people to not want to put in the natural gas infrastructure since you got to stub out the electric, right, as a cost consideration. And You know, I think some of the larger home builders that we've spoken with are going to do all electric products because they kind of, you know, didn't want to play a game of chicken with what, you know, the legislation that was coming down the pipe there. So I think they're just naturally doing it. So, you know, I think Bob makes a great point. You know, supply could be an issue. Product could be an issue. I for one, and maybe there's certain people in the audience that wouldn't like to hear this, but I don't like cooking on electric. I like natural gas, and there's gonna be a lot of that probably in the community and in the, you know, in all of our communities. So it might be a tough sell. Obviously, the Restaurant Association saw a problem with it, right, and sought a lawsuit because of it. So, you know, there are practical considerations with it, but you know, maybe we can encourage to as well as we can. You know, and we can certainly, as a city, look to do certain things like banning artificial turf and certain things that aren't covered by the development code. But that's something the city can consider and probably should be done through a series of workshops and things of that nature. I think if we were going to move forward with a climate action plan, some of these issues would have been talked about. You know, as far as I know, right now we've paused that effort, but. Certainly in the future, we may take it back on.
So on the electric, as I mentioned, the push right now is just to make sure that new air conditioners or heat pumps are electric, but it's not cooking devices. But anyway, that's in the future. And also, you know, I don't know, Bob, you may remember the first part of Calabasas Park when it was developed down near the lake.
Classic Calabasas.
Classic Calabasas. It was all electric. They were called medallion homes. They even had a little medallion on them.
That's because the project was built by Edison and Bechtel. And that happened all the way out the 101 freeway as well. You know, the Edison company isn't responsive to the DWP of LA, and those guys are also dealing with these same issues as well. The point, I guess, of tonight's meeting is that we have a significant efficiency step to take, so we aren't duplicating and spending a lot of time and money with a limited amount of staff and a limited amount of budget. You know, that this will help us because we were way out in front in the first place. But ultimately, our job, staff and commissioners and council members, is to educate every individual in our town. And if you think about it, every one of us has a carbon budget, not to mention nitrogen and, you know, sulfur dioxide and all the other stuff. But if you had a carbon budget, can you imagine what each of us is personally responsible for with all of our devices and practices and whatever? I asked that question when I was on the regional council at SCAG. And after 4 years of research and then ultimately, you know, proposing, you know, that there be among the 6 counties in Southern California, a resources management plan, basically. And along the way, I asked one of the staff members, can you figure out what I am personally responsible for in the way of carbon budget? What is my carbon footprint as an individual? And I think both our staff members that have been here long enough have heard me preach this before. While we were trying to pass this natural resources plan for the 6 counties out of SCAG, Southern California Association of Governments, it was determined that somebody like me is responsible for somewhere between 24 and 36 pounds of carbon every day.
Every day?
Every day. If you start thinking about, hey, you got a refrigerator that's burning, you know, coal or natural gas to make the electricity, or maybe it's coming out of the, you know, hydropower that's in the Big Creek, you know, segment of Edison's power generating, and you've got the exhaust coming out of your cars, or you have to power your electricity and your EVs now and everything else. Everything costs. It's all energy. And the target that we're using, the element, that we're talking about as kind of measuring our success is carbon. Well, is it carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide? Is it carbon nanofibers and, and nanoparticles? Whatever. The rubber that's on the tires in my car took a bunch. 7% of the world's carbon release is coming from the making of cement. So, I live in cement. We got cement everywhere. The foundations of this place. What's my personal responsibility for it? I'm nuts if you think about trying to get everybody to think that way. A few of us can, and then we try to figure out how to influence policy accordingly. My story's ended. I did make a motion. Is there anybody that needs to talk about?
We have a second on the table. I just want to acknowledge our city attorney has arrived. Hello, John Fox. Sorry about the traffic. It happens.
A lot of carbon on the freeway.
But we do have a motion. We do have a second. Unless there's any more discussion, I'll bring this to a vote. All right. All in approval, say aye.
Could we get
Aye.
okay. So for roll call purposes,
Aye.
yeah.
It was unanimous.
Commissioner Leah, okay, it's unanimous, so we got it.
You can call the roll if you want.
That's unanimous. John Fox, the counselor, we defer to you.
Since it was a unanimous vote, I don't think a roll
Okay,
call
that's
is
fine.
required.
Sounds good. Is there any need to ask for any nays, since it was clearly unanimous? Any nays? No nays. Okay. Passes unanimously. Moving
Well,
on then.
That was Exhibit A. Is there a presentation on Exhibit B?
I think B was the ordinance itself, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, B was just the draft of the ordinance
Yeah.
that will be forwarded to the council for their action.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's no action required of us on that?
No, action was to pass the resolution, which
Yeah.
actually recommends adoption of that
Yeah.
ordinance,
Yeah,
correct?
that was it. That was the crux of it.
Well, I appreciate the staff's thoroughness in dealing with
Always.
the investigation and setting the conversation in motion. And it just proves that Calabasas is a really special place.
Yeah. Thanks in part to the individuals I'm sitting next to. So, yes, you're here. Oral reports, director's report. Do we have anything?
Thank you, Vice Chair Hussaina. I say that correctly?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
All right. Well, I may have to quit there while I'm ahead. No, it's very quick. I just want to let you know that we have been preparing our annual progress report about general plan implementation for the year 2024. This is actually something we're supposed to do every year. We did it every year for a number of years and just fell out of the habit and weren't doing it for a while. But you're going to see that report at your next meeting. And then that's something that is a commission report, technically, then is presented to council. So this is a report that we're preparing. Rachel and Jacqueline have been doing the legwork. They have a very comprehensive report that we'll have ready for you in the next meeting. The only public hearing we have teed up isn't even for next meeting. It's in September, and that's for a new single-family residence and ADU that we're anticipating will be ready for a hearing in September, and that's in the Highlands on a property up there. So we don't have any other public hearings planned, and that's the end of my report, I believe. And I'm glad John made it through the traffic, and I would like to point out that Candace also was excused today. I think I forgot to mention that at the beginning.
Excuse me, Tom, is the next meeting the 21st?
Yes.
Okay,
Of August.
Great.
of August. Just want to be sure.
Great, great. All right, reports.
I have
Any
a
members?
question. If I can go back to Exhibit B, the ordinance, 2025 XXX. Do we know whose bill, the California Code of Regulations, Cal Green, Assembly Bill 32, do you know who the author of that was, by chance?
Was it Wiener?
Well, it's not critical, but it would help. It's like,
Maybe Rachel could do a quick search and she'll
well,
get the answer for
that,
you.
or just next time we meet, just answer my question of, who's responsible for Assembly Bill 32, which obviously set the state's green building in motion.
It was Fabian Nunez
Oh,
and
Nunez,
Fran Pavley.
Well, and Fran Pavley is one of our colleagues in Agoura Hills. She was the founding mayor of the city of Agoura Hills, and then became an assembly member and a senator. And she's responsible for, interestingly enough, the tailpipe emissions laws that make everybody check their gas-powered vehicles, and, get smog checked every 2 years. And smog is back, guys, because we've done pretty well, but talk about carbon. And if you look out to the north on the way here tonight, I guess the Cleveland forest fires have
yeah.
just mounds and mounds of clouds of smoke, and they're all blowing toward, I think, Lancaster and Palmdale. They're not coming this direction this time, but talk about inability to control just carbon, let alone all the greenhouse gases that are in play. We got a lot to learn and do. If we're done, I'll move to adjourn.
Any more reports? I don't want to skip anybody.
Not reports, but I do want to second what Dennis said. It's not just Dennis or me, really. I went with our staff to meetings and, Chuck Mink and others, and also went to the planning commission
Yeah.
then to get everybody's input on what parameters to use in our green building ordinance. It really was the whole community, not, as Dennis said, it wasn't just us. And I do also agree, and Tom probably knows, he was studied geography also. We don't see the costs of what we do, and I don't mean just money, but environmental costs, and we do have to consider that.
The least attended city council meeting typically is the budget hearings. There are usually 2 or 3 or 4 prep meetings and finally a budget meeting, and it's online, so you can actually watch it from home now, but before, crickets in the audience out there, So it's really important to understand the economic impacts of the decisions and the planning that we deal with, and our staff is always on top of that, trying to figure out how we maintain, some management and control over the costs of what it takes to, answer our questions. Anyway, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn on the table from Commissioner
So moved.
Holmstrom. We have a second.
Second.
All right. No objections. Now I can ask for objections, and
No objection.
hearing none, we are officially adjourned.
Thank you. You did a great job.